Alright, so in this activity, we are going to create, well, let me get back for a second. So, after you read Module 17, after you read through this, and unfortunately it's a little bit cryptic and there's a little more information here than what I think you need to know. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating what are called, we're actually going to make a static variable. I'm not going to have you do a static method, but I'll explain what that is. And then we'll talk about the difference between local and global variables. And then we won't really talk about recursion much, but you should read through that. And then you can look at this example here with card, hand, and deck. But this whole section is a little bit more on class design and object implementation. I'm also going to be showing you how to do a couple things with methods of overloading, overriding. So this is all back in Module 17 of Week 7. So what I'm going to ask you do is go to Module 17 Programming Activity, and I've given you two starter files, one called car and one called carlot. So you should pull these both down, save them in your Java project folder, wherever that is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open both of those. I'm going to have to go find them. So I need to go open. I have them both here. I have to one at a time. And then I'll go back and open carlot. Okay, so the difference here, I wonder if I can close, because if I can close more than one of these, it's not way too many files open. So I'm a little new to JGrasp, I've used it a little bit, so it's probably an easier way to close files, but I have these open from previous demonstrations. But, okay, so here I'm looking at carlot, but I'm really more concerned to start with the car Java file. So you'll see here, this file, you should change out this information at the top with your name, date, file name, brief description, what it does. This is a object blueprint. This is a blueprint to create a car. So what you're trying to do is pretend you're in charge of a car lot, and this is going to keep track of every time you get a new car on the car lot. So the information we're keeping on a car is its color, its VIN number, and its price. And I know, yes, arguably for cars you could have a lot more information on the car, the make, the model, etc., 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 the engine size, whatever. And yes, you would. I'm just trying to streamline this down so it's a much more simplistic example. So this is going to keep track of every time we roll a new car on the car lot, what information we're keeping track of. We're keeping track of right now the color, the VIN, and the price. Now, yes, I also know VIN realistically is probably not an integer, because if you look at a car VIN, it's really got letters and characters and stuff in it. So I'm just trying to simplify it and show you how you can have a string, an integer, and a double, three different type of instance variables. So every time we roll a new car on the car lot, by default, these are the default values. It's going to be black, its VIN number is going to be 999999, the price is going to be 0. So we have to be able to then later set its color, set its VIN number, and set its price. So we're using these mutator methods to set the color, set the VIN, and set the price. And then if we want to go back and look up these values, we're using an accessor to get the color, get the VIN, and get the price. So all this file does, you'll notice there is no main in this file. There's no main here. All this file does is it keeps track of what we need for a blueprint when we make a car. That's all it does. So when we make a car, we do that in carlot. So carlot is kind of our driver file that has main. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put here that I've ended main, and down here is where I end the class. So this is what keeps track of when we make a car. So here at line 12, we're making a new car. A new car is rolled on the car lot. We're going to call it for right now just car 1. And we're going to set its color to midnight blue. We're going to set the VIN to 13579. and we're setting the price to $18,999.98. And then lines 17 through 19 just displays back those values. So we want to see car 1 model is, and then we're going to say, hey, get the color for car 1. So this thing right here, this returns a string. This returns an integer because it gets the VIN, and this returns a price. And you can see back in here, that's exactly what it does. It returns a string, get VIN returns an int, and get price returns a double. So these are the return types of these methods. These mutator methods have their return type is void. So you can see that the void return type doesn't really return anything. It kind of just does its thing and then it's done. Where have we seen the return type of void before? Oh, we've seen it right here in main. So main kind of does its thing and it's done. And that's what main does. We run through main and then the program's over. So what does this do when we run it? Let's take a look. This should create a car, and then it should just display back. It should set those values to midnight blue 13579 for VIN and then the price, and then it should display those values back, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Car 1 is midnight blue, car 1 VIN is this, and car 1 price is that. So what would happen if I just said, hey, I want to just see, just display what is car 1. What is car 1? Just display car 1. What's going to happen? Now I'm going to comment out these outputs. Just that way the only output I should have is what this thing does. What does that do? And Java comes back and it says car at 15db9742. So it did display something. What the heck is that? There's a car at 15db9742. I never set anything with that value. So that, ladies and gentlemen, that is a memory address. That's basically saying, okay, you want to see what I have for car 1? Here's what I got. Car 1 is an object. It's a car object. It's a car object at this memory address. Memory address of 15db9742. So when I just say, show me what you got for an object, Java in the background is running. It is running a method that it has built in that will give me the default values for an object. That default method is called a toString method. A toString method says, take whatever you got for this object and return some kind of string value. Well, what it does right now is it returns back the memory address. That's what the toString method is doing. So what I'm going to do in my car file is I'm going to do two things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create a toString method that I can say, all right, Java, you already have a toString method, right? Java already has a toString method that is running in the background. We could go into the folder and dig down and find it. But I want to override, I want to create a special version of the toString method for my car objects. So I want to say that this is a public void, because it's going to do its thing, and it's actually, no, it needs to return a string. And it's going to be called toString, because that's the same name as Java's. Now, I don't need any parameters. I don't need to take anything in to do its thing. But I do need to return something. So what am I going to return? I'm going to return, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to return the, I'm going to say the color is, and I'm just going to build a string. That's what I'm doing here. I'm going to build a string. Is whatever is stored in the variable color. And now I'm going to go down to the next line, because this is just a string statement. I'm going to go down to the next line, and I'm going to say that the VIN number is, I'm just building a string, concatenating values. Go down to the next line, oh, we need a plus here, because I'm concatenating them building a string. I need a plus here too, so sorry about that. And then I need to concatenate after that. I need to display, what else is left? Oh, the price. And I want the price. I want the dollar sign to make that look nicer. Concatenate price. And I think that's it. So that's a Java statement. So this should display on one line the word color with the color value. On the next line should display VIN with the VIN number. And then on the next line should display price with a dollar sign and then the value of the price. So what happens now, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Notice this is my car file, I've got to save it. I'm going to go back to car lot, and I haven't changed anything here. I'm just going to run this again. And now, it gives me the same thing. Why did that happen? Maybe I need to... what did I do wrong? Doing something wrong there. Oh, wait a minute. For car lot. Sorry about this. I feel like I made some kind of simple mistake. I'm going to check something here real quick. That's what I get for not practicing this first. Give me 1 second. I feel like I may have messed something up. Huh, that is weird. It doesn't work in JGrasp. Very odd. Do not have an explanation for that. Because it should work. I wonder if... There we go. I see what I did. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I just learned something about JGrasp. So this plus need, because really all I was doing is I was running the same file again. So because I didn't make any changes to this file. I didn't make any changes to it, but I did make changes to this file, the car file, and car lot uses the car class. So I had to recompile this. That's my boo-boo. I didn't know that about JGrasp. So make sure when you do this, you have to click this guy to after you make these changes, you got to recompile and then run it. Sorry about that. So now I am seeing the midnight blue, the VIN number, and the price. So this method, called the toString method, we are overriding an existing method that exists in Java's world. We're saying, okay, Java, I know for all objects you have this default toString method. I don't want it just to show me a memory address for a car. For my car object, I want it to do this. I want it to display this stuff. Alright, so one other thing I want you to do is we're going to overload the constructor. This thing constructs or builds a car. So what I want to do is I want, every time a car is made, back in my car lot right now, I have to set the color, set the VIN, and set the price every time I make a car. It would be really, really nice if I could do this stuff when I create the car. If we happen to know, if the car comes on the lot and we didn't expect it, we would say, oh, okay, we got a red car that's this price and this VIN number. We could do it right when the car rolls on the lot. So we need to create a constructor that is an overloaded version. So we have two constructors. Here's our default constructor. This would be the default constructor. I can spell constructor without. And then I need an overloaded constructor, which would be public car. And I'm going to go ahead and take values for the color. I'm going to take in a string I'm going to call C. I'm going to take in an int I'm going to call V. And I'm going to take in a double that I'll call P. I'm going to go ahead and take those values in. So that way, when the car is made, I can, rather than set them to these hard-coded values, I can say, well, I want to set not the color to black, but I want to set it to whatever C is, and not to set the VIN to 99999. I want to set it to whatever V is, and I want to set the price to whatever P is. Notice that they must come in this order. I must have a string, and then an int, and then a double. So this is the overloaded constructor. There's a difference between an overriding method and an overloaded method. An overloaded method is two methods of the same name in the same file, in the same class that I made. I'm saying, hey, this has the same name as this. How does Java know the difference? Well, back in car lot, I can create a car where I have no arguments, or I can say, I want to create another car, I'm going to call car 2, which this car, I happen to be lucky enough to know that it is candy apple red, and it has a VIN number of, I don't know, I'm arbitrarily making this up, and it has a price of, we'll say, $23,409. So when I make car 2, I know these values. So I could, just to make sure this works, I could go ahead and display car 2 using my toString method, just to make sure that car 2 gets there. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this. Just for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and recompile the whole project and then run it. And what I should see now is I should see here's car 1 and then here's car 2. Right? So now how many cars do we have in the car lot? Well, right now we have 2 cars. So if we wanted some way to keep track of all these cars on the car lot, this car class is only generating values for each instance of a car. So this color, the VIN, the price, these are unique to the instance of a car. What if I wanted some variable that would work for all cars? I want to keep a count of how many cars I have. I'm going to create a private static counter, and that counter is going to be set to 1. And every time we create a car, we're going to say that count is going to plus equal 1. Because we're going to say every time we create a car, we want the counter to go up on it, because it's keeping count of our inventory. So I got to do this here, whether I use the default constructor or I use the overloaded constructor. So this static word means that this variable is a class variable. It works for all classes. It kind of sticks here. It statically sticks here for all instances of a class. Every time we make an instance of a car, this puppy relates to it. So how do we get that value back? Well, we could create a accessor that is public. We could say, I want to return, is that an int? I'm going to make that an int. Oops, that's my bad. I have to make this public static int count. Sorry about that. So this has to be an integer. So I want to return an integer, and we'll call it get inventory count. What is it going to return? It's going to return count. And this is an accessor to get count of cars on car lot. That's what that does. So now I want to call that somewhere. I want to call this method. I want to call this guy over in car lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, just to show you that this works, I'm going to say total cars on car lot is, and this is going to be, I can really do it for any car. I could say, well, I can use car 1 or car 2, it doesn't really matter. Car 2, I'll probably do car 2 because that way it's done after that. Because either instance is going to relate to this, it doesn't really matter. So now what this should do is this should, I'm going to put an empty print line in here just to put a space in between these guys. Go ahead and recompile this first, make sure it clears everything out and run it. Now it should give me, this is car 1, it's car 2, and the total cars on the car lot is I have 2 cars on the car lot. So what you need to do when you're done this is I need you to put both of these files back in a folder called Java Programming Activity 17. Sorry about the pretty song in the background. It's our laundry done, if you can hear that. So put them in a folder, zip that folder up, and please submit the zipped folder for this activity. So I'm giving you the templates. You literally have to walk through what I just showed you and resubmit